There have been a lot of receivers moved this offseason, and a lot of not just good ones, but a lot of great ones. And in today's video, we are going to be ranking the receiving rooms across the NFL. And what factors into this is receivers and tight ends, not just receivers. So for a team like the Las Vegas Raiders, for example, Darren Waller would count in addition to Davante Adams and Hunter Renfrow, and we would not be not including Waller when he is in fact a very big part of the Raiders passing game. And we're going to be ranking rooms 1 through 5 in reverse order, with several honorable mentions at the end, and with those couple of prefaces out of the way, let's begin. And starting with number 5, it is the Minnesota Vikings, which of course is led by all-world receiver Justin Jefferson. And over the first 2 years of his career, Justin has more yards than any receiver in the history of the NFL, with over 3,000, and just had his first of what we expect to be multiple 100 reception seasons in his career, with a 108, 16, 16, and 10 touchdown stat line. There is another receiver for the Vikings that is pretty good, and that is Adam Thielen, who, despite missing some time last year, is coming off of a 10 touchdown season in 2021 and has 24 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. Thielen is a hell of a red zone target, and despite the Vikings not having a, George Kittle or Travis Kelce on the roster, Thielen more than does his job, as he is a technician in the red zone, and Kirk looks for him quite often down there, and Adam comes through time and time again. But believe it or not, the Vikings have a solid third receiver who you'll probably see as a sleeper heading into 2022 due to the new coach and wanting to maximize Kirk, meaning more opportunities for receivers in this offense, and that's third-year player KJ Osborne. KJ had over 650 yards in 2021 and 7 touchdowns, and while that's not an insane year or a budding superstar, as not everyone will eventually be a superstar, and he is a good complementary player to both Justin and Adam in 2021 proved that. He's a guy you have to account for, because if you don't, he'll burn you for a big play, and several teams found that out last year, as KJ had 4 touchdowns of more than 20 yards. As for the tight end room, the Vikings have 4th-year veteran Irv Smith coming in a contract year, and admittedly, I'm not the biggest Irv Smith Jr. fan in the world, but he is a solid player. He's also pretty limited in an offense with what he can do statistically, with Dalvin Cook at running back and Justin and Adam for Kirk to throw the ball to. This room is obviously led by Justin Jefferson, and him having 14 games of 100 or more receiving yards over the first 2 years of his career show that, and Minnesota comes in today at number 5. Next up is the Miami Dolphins, who made quite the splash this offseason by acquiring one of the most dynamic football players really over the past 25 years in Tyreek Hill. And with all of the hype surrounding another 2021 draftee in Jamar Chase, people either forget or simply don't realize how good of a rookie season Jalen Waddle had. Anytime you have a receiver go for a 100-catch, 1,000-yard season, it's insanely good, and that's exactly what Waddle did in 2021, as he had a 104-catch, 1,015-yard, and 6-touchdown stat line, and although he only had 2 carries, he did have a rushing touchdown as well. And while I don't think Waddle is a top 3 or 4 receiver in the league, I do think it's in some ways criminal as to how underrated he is relative to the rookie season he had. But the Dolphins have a tight end in Mike Gesicki, who, again, quietly, it seems to be a common theme with the Dolphins, but quietly put up back-to-back 700-yard receiving seasons, and this was with not great quarterback play in 2020 by a combination of Ryan Fitzmagic and Tua, and then in 2021 with Tua being hurt at times and veteran Jacoby Brissett. Those 3 are a very good trio of weapons, and what has to be remembered with Waddle and Gesicki is Tyreek will open up opportunities with his sheer presence of him being there. So if Tua can consistently get these guys the football, we're looking at an offense that should have 2 1,000-yard receivers and very solid production from Mike, who is in a contract year and wants a long-term contract. This video is on the receiving room and not who is throwing them the football, as I'm sure there will be comments on having Miami 4 with Tua as the QB, but make no mistake about it, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle on a football field at the same time are lethal, and throwing in an athletic 6'7" tight end only stresses defenses out even more. And from one side of the country, we go to the other, to the City of Angels, to discuss the LA Rams. And it starts with Cooper Kupp, who just won the first Triple Crown since Steve Smith won it back in 2005, which means Cooper led the league in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. And for all of the talent we have at the receiver position across the league, especially with the young LSU guys in Jefferson and Chase, it's almost like Cooper Kupp is forgotten about, and what's truly wild regarding that is he just had a 145 catch, 1,947 yard, and 16 touchdown season. So not a bad season for old boy Cooper Kupp, but the Rams' number 2 receiver is Allen Robinson, who was signed this offseason from the Chicago Bears. And I am under the belief Allen at this point is a better receiver than Odell Beckham, especially for 2022, given how much of the season Odell will miss, and it will be refreshing to see Allen, actually have a quarterback for the first time in his career, as he was drafted by the Jags, who had Blake Bortles throwing to him, and then in Chicago had Mitch Trubisky, BDN, and a hodgepodge of quarterbacks there. And not only do the Rams have those 2 players, they also have Van Jefferson, who is quietly coming off of an 800-yard season in which he had 6 touchdowns and played a part in the Rams winning the Super Bowl. Shout out Champ Jefferson, Van's son, who was born on Super Bowl Sunday. The Rams don't have 3 number 1 receivers, and I want that much to be clear, as I think Allen is a strong number 2, and Van is a number 2 at best. But with the talent this offense has, and assuming they stay healthy, of course, Cooper is a lock for at least 1,000 yards, and I wouldn't be surprised if Allen has 1,000, and for Van to be close to that as well. This is a very talented group of receivers, and Tyler Higbee, the tight end, is also a solid option, and the Rams come in at number 3. Next up is the Las Vegas Raiders, whose receiving core is now led by Davante Adams. And we'll start with Davante, and he's had an insane last 2 seasons, as he's had back-to-back 115 catch years and had 29 touchdowns during this time period. He is one of the best receivers in football and is still just 29 years old. I expect his numbers to decline a hair in Las Vegas, but it's not due to Derek Carr being not as good of a quarterback as Aaron Rodgers, as much as it is how many options the Raiders have. Will the less quarterback play factor in a little? Yes, because Rodgers and Davante had nearly a decade of chemistry build up, and I realize Derek and Davante have played together before, but I'd be surprised if his numbers are in the 115 catch, 1,500 yards, 17 touchdown area, like they have been over the past 2 years. But aside from Davante, they have a 4th-year receiver in Hunter Renfrow, who broke out in a big way in 2021, as he, like Jalen Waddle, had a 100-catch, 1,000-yard year, that again seemingly getting lost within the mix of things. And now him playing behind Davante is only going to benefit him from a schematic standpoint, and he in theory should have a lot more favorable of a situation, as teams are naturally going to cover Davante more than they put an emphasis on Hunter Renfrow. They also have Darren Waller, who missed some time last year, but had put up back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons in 19 and 20. When you line up against the Raiders this year, it's more often than not going to be pick one, as in who are we really trying to stop from hurting us or from beating us in X or Y way. Adams, of course, leads this room, but it's not like Darren Waller is a scrub, and the same goes for Renfrow. To me, there's only one team there behind from a receiving room standpoint, and without further ado, let's discuss the number 1 group of pass catchers heading into 2022, led by Christian Kirk of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm kidding, of course, it is not surprisingly the Cincinnati Bengals. They are led by phenom Jamar Chase, who in his rookie year alone had over 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns, and was the Rookie of the Year. He had multiple 200-yard games, and when there's a player like this that young with a quarterback like Joe Burrow, it's hard not to project what they will be able to do over the next 5 to 6 years. They also have T. Higgins, who with a healthy Joe Burrow for an entire season, put up his first 1,000-yard year of what we expect to be several, and they also have quiet veteran Tyler Boyd, who is a lot better than what his stats show. Naturally, in an offense like this, someone is going to be not left out because Boyd still had an 800-yard year on nearly 70 receptions, but I think you're crazy if you don't think he couldn't put up 1,000 in another offense. They have, in my opinion, 2 number 1 receivers in Chase and Higgins, and a very, very solid number 2 receiver in Tyler Boyd, who plays the wide receiver 3 role behind T. Higgins. It'd be extremely cool to see them have 3 1,000-yard receivers in an offense, but that would be very difficult to do. But like with the Raiders, it's very much a question of how much are we covering Jamar and how much are we trusting our other players to cover T and Tyler Boyd. They are a nightmare of a team to match up against. Now, for some other candidates, we of course start with the Philadelphia Eagles, who have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. 3 legit options for Jalen Hurts to throw the ball to, and could certainly have an argument to be in today's video. Kansas City does as well, and there's a very real possibility Juju Smith-Schuster has a bounce-back year, and people forget he is a player who has 2 95-plus catch seasons and is just 25 years old. Travis Kelce, he's pretty good, and they also have rookie Sky Moore. We can't forget the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks, the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the Los Angeles Chargers either. There are plenty of teams that had an argument to be in today's video, but I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a very fun video to do, and if you did enjoy, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because it would truly mean the world. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.